Gordon, if you want to take yourself off mute and introduce one of our guests here today to everyone.
Joining us today, we have Makiko Nakasone, who is joining us as a pre-governor visit, but this is an unofficial visit. Makiko will be governor not next year, but the year following that. She is our District 5280 governor nominee. Welcome, Makiko.
Thank you so much. Gordon has been my mentor in understanding district finance. So special thanks to him. I'm very anxious to learning who will be your president-elect. Thank you.
And I'd like to introduce, she'll be a regular eventually here, but Kelly Allen, president of our UCLA Rotary Club. We're so happy to have her here. Today, you want to say a few words? Kelly, take yourself off mute. You're on mute.
Yeah, so I'm Kelly Allen, and for those who weren't here before, I'm a senior at UCLA and obviously the president of UCLA Rotary. I'm double majoring in poli-sci and environmental studies, minoring in global studies. I hope to do environmental policy, so that's kind of my path, but my other big thing at UCLA is Rotaract and Rotary, and I got into it because I did service in high school. Unfortunately, Interact didn't really have a presence, but ironically, the clubs that did have a presence in high school don't have a presence here, so here I am with Rotary. Yeah, it's great.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Kelly. And are there any other visiting Rotarians or guests? I just want to say a big hello to our wonderful president, Nancy McCready. And I just want to say you're looking fantastic, Nancy.
Thank you, Marcia. That's very sweet. I appreciate it.
Okay, are there any other visitors? Yes, go ahead.
I don't see any of my guests, but I know they're on or listening. The board of the West LA Homeless is on this call, or a number of them are. And then also I invited my my men's meditation group on. A number of them are on. So I can't introduce them by name because I can't see them, but I know a number of them are on this call.
Lou Seppi's on, John.
Who's on?
Lou Seppi.
Oh, Lou Seppi's on. I didn't see him. Thanks for coming, Lou. Lou Seppi's a good friend of mine in my men's meditation group.
Thanks for being here, Lou, and welcome to all of you, whether we can see you or not here.
And Marcia, my wife, Lisa Chapman's on the call too.
Yes, we were talking quite a while. Hi, Lisa.
Hello.
Hello.
Good to hear you there. We were talking quite a while, quite a bit before the meeting started. And does anybody have any announcements they'd like to make right now? Okay, well,
you know what I want people to start thinking about?
What?
Marcia? We are going to have the Christmas shopping spree again. And I know it's just October, but I want people to kind of put in the back of their mind. It's usually the first Thursday of December. And I think we're going to do it similar to last year, where we will try and do a Zoom call with a kid and then go off and go shopping at Target or wherever you want to. So I just want everyone to kind of keep that day in mind. It's usually, like I said, it's usually the first Thursday of December. And what I'm going to probably do again this year is I'm going to do a catered dinner with hamburgers and fries and chicken, whatever they need. Mm-hmm. So anybody, I know it's far out, but if you could put that in your calendar or something that you may be able to help with, you don't actually have to come to the event because it's going to be done mostly remotely, but you do have to go out and do the shopping, or you can even shop on Amazon and have it delivered. You can have it delivered to me, or because my wife loves the gift wrap. So you can help me with that.
Did you hear that, Lisa?
I knew I'd get volunteered for something.
So anyhow, I just want people put that in your stovepipe, and everyone just kind of thinking about that. Thank you.
Yes.
So can you send an announcement out to everybody with the date and everything that you're looking for? Thank you.
Okay.
We'll keep talking about this, and we'll send announcements out so everyone will have a good idea.
Okay. And Tom, was that your voice I heard?
It is. It is. We want to remind everybody that next week we are having the district governor here, Giddy, and she will be addressing the board of directors at 11:30, and then the regular meeting. She'll be given, all members are invited, and she'll be given a talk about what's happening with her and the district. And I want to remind everybody that you're all welcome. No outsiders, but spouses are welcome to join in on the event. So remember to do that, and let's give her a good showing by having everybody possible attend next week's meeting. Also, as a reminder that we're this Friday night, we have not heard from somebody, a few of you, but most have heard about the party at the Jim and Eleanor Myers house. It's a wine tasting special event. You're going to have a great tasting. First of all, Chris Bradford's going to bring a nice bottle of wine from his cellar. And next we have a Bodega Norton that Terry White donated. And John O'Keefe is giving a fabulous Zinfandel. And he will be there for it. And then I'm donated a bottle of Pessimist, which is really an optimist viewpoint, but so it's been good wines and some super saver wines, etc. But if you don't drink wine, as such, some people don't, of course, including my wife, and you will have we'll have other drinks, soft drinks, and water, etc., like that. So please, if you have not responded to Diane's invitation, please do so, or just email me directly, because I'm trying to buy the appropriate amount of plates and napkins and all that type of stuff and wine, and would enjoy seeing everybody. So that's it, Marcia.
Tom, let me ask you a question about the district governor next week. What time should non-board members enter the Zoom? 11:30?
Yeah, I can answer that. If you could come on at about 12:25 and go into the waiting room. So when we're ready to open the main meeting, I can just go admit, just go punch admit, a whole bunch of times to get everybody in there real quickly. Okay. So if you can just go wait in the waiting room for 5 minutes at 12:25, that would be great.
Okay. Thank you.
It will not be like a social hour, obviously, because the board of directors will be meeting with the governor.
Thank you.
Good question, Ed.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Okay, and I'm sure Steve Day would want me to remind everybody about the district party, the dance up at the Skirball Center, and also about getting your money in for your tickets, for your raffle tickets and everything. He's not able to be with us today, but I know he wants me to remind you about that. And now, Mr. John O'Keefe, are you introducing our guest speakers today?
I am. Yes, I am. Yes.
Okay.
Wait a minute now. Yeah. Before I introduce Zachery, Coil, and Maureen Rivas from the People Concerned, and thank you, Steve, for your description and nice thoughts about the People Concerned. I just wanted to say a little bit about the organization that I'm involved with that has hired the People Concerned to come into West LA and help our homeless situation. I'm on the board of an organization called WestLAHomeless.org, short term WLAH.org. And one of our founders, Mike Stevenson, spoke to our Rotary Club in August of 2020. Anyway, the group was started by Sean McMillan and Mike Stevenson, who are two West LA people, and they were trying to help solve the homeless problem on the West Side, which we're all concerned about. And they formed a board, and I'm on the board. I joined the board in the early part of this year. By the way, we did sponsor, along with the Westwood Village Rotary, sponsored the Connect Day to help the homeless at Westwood Park last Tuesday, which was very well attended, and a number of our Rotary members were there. Anyway, back again about how we got started or why West LA Homeless got started. Pacific Palisades several years ago had done a program in using the people concerned, and they observed that while there's a lot of resources available to help the homeless, they're really not getting down to the basic problem about coming and meeting with the homeless. And that's what the Palisades did. They hired some people concerned people. They came into the Palisades. They met a lot of homeless. At that point in time, there were about 200 homeless in Palisades, and they came in there with a program, which they're going to describe to you today, and got that homeless number down under 100 in the Palisades. So it did work there, and that's kind of what we've started to try to do here. So anyway, once we were formed, we filed with the state of California and the federal government to become a nonprofit, which we did receive early part of this year. So we're a 501c3, which means if you donate to West LA Homeless to help our program, you'll get a deduction. And the other thing we did, which we thought was a good idea, there's homeless all over the LA. I think it's been numbered somewhere around 65,000 or more in all of LA. That's probably just the city of LA. We did a census of our area, and we defined our area to start with very tightly. Our area that we're working into in West LA, bordered by Wilshire on the north, the 405 freeway on the west, the Santa Monica freeway on the south, and Clubview Drive, which is the border of the south course of LA Country Club on the east. So that's the only area that we can look at, because we couldn't look any wider than that. We did a census of our area and figured out there's about 250 homeless in our area. So once we got our 501c3 and got going, we had to raise some money to hire these folks from the people concerned. And we commenced a fundraising effort in the early part of this year, raised about $200,000 from private donors. We got some from our Councilman Koretz and from our supervisor, Sheila Kuehl. And once we got about 200, we were able to hire the people concerned, who have come in and started in our area in August. So now I'm going to introduce Zachery Coil, who is the director of the West Side Outreach Mental Health Department for the people concerned, and his program director, Maureen Rivas, who are going to discuss with us their program in action in Westwood to try to help reduce the homeless population. So Zachery and Maureen, you're on right now, and thank you very much for coming.
And Zachery, feel free to put up your display at any time.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks for having us. I hope you don't need me to sing, because I don't think I'll sing as well. But it's really nice to be here. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and share a screen with you. We're going to try to just do a brief presentation about what we're doing and leave some time for question and answer. I find that a lot of times people want to ask questions about homelessness in general and what we're doing specifically, and we'll try to answer to the best of our ability. Let me just get our presentation up. Okay. Can you see this okay? Oops. Can everyone see that all right? Yeah. Okay. So we work at the people concern. Oh, Maureen, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself too?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Maureen. I'm the program manager for the West LA Outreach team.
Thanks, Maureen. So we both work at the people concern. I've been here for about 5-6 years. Maureen's been with the organization for about 8 or 9 years. And we both have worked in the field of homeless outreach and homeless services for a large portion of our professional life. And we're just really passionate about this work, love working at the people concern, and really excited about this new project in West LA. So somebody already talked about some of our core tenets. Just briefly, the people concern is a really large agency. We're one of the largest housing and social service agencies in the county. Some people who've been around for a while might remember an organization called OPCC that was on the west side out of Santa Monica, and another organization called LAMP Community, which was down on Skid Row. About 4 or 5 years ago, these two agencies merged to create the People Concerned. So sometimes people still call us OPCC or LAMP, depending on where you are. So you may be familiar with some of these organizations from the past. So we also have our footprint is in South LA, up in Antelope Valley a little bit, all the way up through Malibu. And we also do some work down in Long Beach area as well. So our model of integrated and comprehensive care empowers people experiencing homelessness and survivors of domestic violence to navigate the multifaceted obstacles in their lives, become their best selves, and ultimately connect and contribute to their communities. One of the statistics we're really proud of is our retention rate. When we house people in permanent supportive housing, 93% of them, according to our internal statistics, never experience homelessness again. We have lots and lots of programs at our agency. It's a very large place. I can never keep track of it. And in the Zoom era, I met somebody the other day who I've been in meetings with for two years. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize you were like 6'2". So it's a really big agency, and we do a lot of stuff. So we have domestic violence services through our Sojourn Center, income assistance, interim housing, also commonly known as shelters, life skills and wellness. We work with Venice Family Clinic and other medical providers to provide medical care to the homeless, where we have contracts with the Department of Mental Health, as well as Department of Health Services, to provide case management and do comprehensive mental health care and substance abuse services. We do outreach and engagement at our access centers and with our street outreach teams. We have permanent supportive housing projects where we provide supportive services on site. And wait, I couldn't see that last one. What does it say? Kind of hidden on my screen. I think that's the pets. Is that the pet thing? Yeah. Okay, we have a canine program, which is very unique. You can find out more about this. If you ever want to know more, you can contact me. There's going to be a slide at the end about how to get more information about our organization. So our outreach team, and I think somebody spoke about this earlier, whatever it takes. That's basically our motto. So what we're going to do when we meet with homeless people is we are going to try to meet them where they're at, on their own turf and on their own terms. The traditional model of homeless services usually involves you have to jump through this step, this hoop, and wait in this line before you're going to get an opportunity to get to the things that you want. Our outreach teams really try to bring everything to people. So we are oftentimes the first point of contact for people living on the streets or people who are not interested in actively seeking services or not able to. I think more often than not, they just aren't able to wait in a line, wait their turn, and navigate what it takes to get services on their own. So, people that you see on the street that people, oftentimes walk around or maybe, go to the opposite side of the street to avoid, those are the people we go out to. The people who are, hiding in parks and in alleys, we go and we try to engage with them. We're a multidisciplinary staff teams in our agency. We have everyone from social workers and clinical psychologists to substance abuse counselors, psychiatrists, medical professionals, people with lived experience, either on the streets or in drug and alcohol addiction, make up a lot of our organization. We have a lot of people who are really, really passionate about the work we do and helping others, and coming from a lot of different vantage points. Big thing we do is linking people to services and trying to help them get into housing resources. The last 1.5 years, like everybody, we've had a big shift in our organization to providing people on the streets with personal protective equipment, masks, sanitizer, hygiene supplies. And then we made a transition to helping out with testing with the Department of Health Services in the field and helping people on the street get vaccinations. So you can imagine the pandemic was really, really hard on homeless people. I remember the very beginning when everybody was ordered to stay at home. We were going out and finding clients who had absolutely no idea what was going on. It was like the Santa Monica Promenade was busy one day and the next it was a ghost town. And they didn't know what was happening. And we had to try to figure out how to navigate being safe ourselves, keeping them safe, everything that everybody was trying to do, but our job can't be done remotely. And these clients were really, really left in the lurch because they might have relied on people walking by, people leaving restaurants, and none of that was happening. So we were the only lifeline that a lot of people had. And we were asked to, continue to come into work. Most of the people that I work with have been working out in the field and out of our office ever since March 21st or whatever it was. We've been, on the streets that entire time and, working face to face with people. So, all right. So our goal is to move people off the streets and into best fit permanent housing. And as John was discussing, we recently started in August an outreach team that is funded by the West LA Homeless Organization. So he was talking about the map. He described the kind of the boundaries of the map. This is the area that we're covering. The team we have is 2 full-time outreach workers that have a lot of experience in the field. And then we have Maureen as the program manager. She oversees what they do, and I'm the director who does, I'm a desk jockey, as they say, I answer a lot of emails, have a lot of meetings, handle clinical crisis, stuff like that. So we've been doing this just for, now it's been 2 months, but our statistics from the first month were that we engaged 111 people in the first month. 73% of them were identified as men and 27% as women. And 63 of those people are people we had multiple contacts with. So that's where we make our largest impact, is not in the one-time. The one-time interaction is never going to make anything. If anybody's in like sales or anything like that, you can understand it's part of what we do is sort of like a sales job. We have to sell people on services. We have to follow up. We have to keep making calls, and so the one-time visit is never going to really amount to much of anything. It is very, very hard to move somebody immediately into any kind of services or resources in one visit. So it often takes a lot of follow-up and multiple visits to make progress. So let's see. Oh, in the first month, we were able to connect 9 people to housing resources. These are people who qualified for these resources as a result of the work that we did. And if the West LA Homeless had not been able to fund us, they were probably more than likely people who would not have been matched to a resource. So the system is very, very complicated, but it does involve, in order to have somebody make progress, you do need a lot of a dedicated worker who knows who you are and is going to track you down and help you navigate through things. How about Maureen, you want to take this next slide? Kind of talk a little bit about what you all do when you go out on the street and meet somebody?
Sure. So when we go out on the streets, our main focus is building a relationship with people. We come back over and over and over so that they get used to us. Completing an assessment, which we call a SPDAT, it's a series of questions that could at sometimes be really triggering for individuals out on the street because they ask really personal questions. We learn to frame those questions in order to make it comprehensible to the individuals that are out on the street. We meet their basic needs as well. If they need like hygiene, they want to see a doctor, we help with the setup with the doctor and get them to the appointments because some people have a problem with, you know, following up on stuff like that. We help them with getting their IDs, their socials, GR, social security, whatever their needs are at that time. We try and figure out a comprehensible plan in order to fulfill those needs. At the same time that we are showing up and doing what we say we're gonna do, we also build that trust with that person. My thinking is if I can create a spark within an individual, then that gives me an opening to create hope for that person so that they're just not used to being where they are in a tent in a park, and that they could actually see that there's something more for them and that it is attainable for them. And like I said, we are all encompassing. Whatever it takes to get that individual to a better place than where they're at is what we're gonna do. And that's what outreach is pretty much all about.
All right, so one of the things that, you know, so there's a couple of words in here. I'll explain some of these, so terms. So we adhere to a housing first model. Housing first is the idea that we will move people from the streets into housing. We believe that the only true solution to homelessness is housing. You can't, you can still be sober and on the streets. You can still be on your medication and on the streets, but you can't be housed and be homeless at the same time, right? So that's one of our big things, is to try to put up minimal barriers to people getting indoors, to try to have a low barrier, high threshold for people's behaviors and helping them adjust. We use a trauma-informed approach. This is basically, instead of viewing things, problematic behavior as somebody, I just did it right there, problematic behavior, right? So it's moving from thinking of people as a problem to people who have been through really hard experiences and looking at their behavior as a reaction to the trauma that they've experienced in their life. Whether they experienced trauma prior to getting on the streets or while they were on the streets, everybody who's on the streets has a traumatic experience. You can't spend one night on the street without it being traumatic in some way. If hopefully nobody here has had that experience, but if you can imagine what it would be like to end up on the street for a night, you will not forget it. And if you ever have an opportunity to do something like the homeless count or volunteer with West LA Homeless, I encourage you to do it. It'll change your perspective on how strong and resilient. We try to look at our clientele as people who have survived, not necessarily people who are suffering, that people who have survived being on the street. And we look at it from a strength-based perspective. So trauma-informed care helps us to kind of, move past the behavior that sometimes makes it hard to work with people and keep trying and keep showing up and hoping that the next time will be different. Harm reduction is a philosophy around mental health and substance use, where we, instead of the pushing that people have to be on their medication or off of drugs and alcohol, we work with them to reduce the risks in their life, to try to help them be more healthy and successful, no matter how they choose, what choices they make with what they do with their time. So, harm reduction, the easiest examples of harm reduction are things like, safe sex practices, clean needles, testing for STDs, things like that are a prime example of harm reduction. So we use these types of techniques to build trust with our unhoused neighbors. We try to identify permanent housing and opportunities. We've done a lot of work educating people about vaccines and facilitating access, and partnering with other agencies and other people like police department, fire department, local hospitals, anybody who's interested in working with homeless people. We try to find that overlap and make success with that. This last slide I can leave up for a little bit and you can take a look at it. There's different opportunities we have for volunteering, sponsoring events, making donations, and then we've had people do lots of different things that can support the organization in different ways. So you can always reach out to Kate Berman. She's right here. She will help you figure out a way that you could possibly help if you're interested. So I think the last one is, okay, the people concerned. Would you rather, should I leave that last slide up or this one? I'll just
leave that last slide up prior to this.
Last slide, yeah.
This one?
Yeah, leave that up, yeah.
Okay. All right, Maureen, anything else I missed? No?
No, that's pretty much what we do.
Yeah.
Okay,
all right.
Okay, Gordon, you have a question?
Actually, since we have a little bit of time, I wonder if it might be interesting if you could give us maybe a couple of examples of interactions that you've had. What are objections or what problems do you run into? Maybe a case would be interesting, case or two, without any names, of course.
Where should I start? So one of the most difficult things to get past is serious mental illness. One of the main symptoms of serious mental illness, like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, is a lack of insight into the fact that you have it, and an unwillingness to acknowledge that you have it. So it can be very challenging to work with people on the street who are suffering from delusions and experiencing hallucinations. They oftentimes view people who are helping them in an untrusting manner, and that can really make it quite challenging. So one of the things that we really try to do, and so, there are options for people who have serious mental illness. Medication can really, really be a game changer for people, but most people, I don't know, anybody who's ever tried any kind of medication, you're like, ooh, what do I want to, and you look at the warnings and it's not fun to get on a medication, no matter what it's for. So working with people to just get to the point where they'll talk to a doctor can be a really hard thing. The mental health system is set up that you have to make an appointment, go to an intake, wait in line, wait in the lobby, answer all the questions, then we'll make another appointment with you. If anybody's done this before, you know how hard it can be. So for someone who's living on the streets to organize themselves in that manner, it can be really next to impossible. Hardly ever happens. So we will oftentimes try to bring psychiatrists out into the field to see people. So I've done that many times. There was a gentleman I used to work with he had built a cardboard condo complex alongside a big industrial warehouse. It was just an entire block of cardboard, and you could never really see him. He would talk to us through the cracks. We would come by, and sometimes he was in there, sometimes he wasn't. Sometimes I think he was just hiding from us. But we started just kind of coming and like dropping off a cup of coffee, and then like talking outside where we just talk to each other, like, oh, it'd be really nice if this guy would come out. I wish we could get to know him a little bit better. And then we would just kind of leave, come back later, a cup of coffee would be gone, like just kind of things like that. And we were able to get this gentleman, we did an entire psychiatric mental health assessment through a crack in a cardboard box, just talking through it. I never saw him until much, much later, where he was willing to come out and get some things from us. And we're able to get him to agree to start on a medication. Sometimes sometimes these medications can be really, really life-changing for people. And I've seen that happen where, you know, they become unrecognizable and they just able to organize their thoughts a little bit better. And we've been able to work. So that's one of the big barriers we see is serious mental illness and a challenge, a barrier to receiving treatment for it.
Thank you. Can I ask, I believe Lisa has a question. Lisa Chapman?
Yes, hi. I was one of the organizers of the Westwood Connect Day that we just had on Tuesday. I'm president of the Westwood Neighborhood Council, so a lot of our boundaries half of our boundaries intersect with the West LA homeless area. So we also oversee Westwood Park as well. So I also chair the homeless count. So I appreciate your thoughts on that. And people really should volunteer and really be involved in these community things that we have. And I hope a lot more of the Rotary Club members do that as well. My question, I guess, is this, that we've had outreach workers in Westwood Park, for instance, and I'm just going to use that boundary. I'm not concentrate on the other West LA areas, but for Westwood Park, as you know, we have one of the largest encampments in Council District 5 at Westwood Park, and it grows and grows each day. My question is, since we already have had outreach workers working there, St. Joseph Center and LASA over the last at least 2.5 years there, I guess I'd like to know, and Maureen, I've been on some Zoom calls with you and I appreciate all your insight. I guess I'd like to know how the people concerned may do things a little bit differently compared to some of these other groups to engage people, because I don't think with LASA and St. Joseph Center, we've had a lot of success at Westwood Park as far as permanent housing or supportive services. And I guess I'd like to know how you guys do things a little differently comparatively to that. I can answer that. So you're right.
Hold on a second, Maureen. Be careful.
So you're right.
I don't mean, I don't,
yeah. Oh, St. Joseph Center and LASA do go out there a lot. It seems that like the West, well, I'll keep it on Westwood Park. Westwood Park is like on the fringe of everybody's territory. So you got people that are popping in and then popping back out, but there's nothing really consistent going on there. What we did, our approach, what I've brought into the team is that we are going to be the ones that are consistent. We're the ones that are out there doing the SPDATs to get the people into this big system in order to move them into housing, looking for the resources, making the connections. Not only are we doing this with the individuals that are out on the streets, we're also making sure that the other organizations out there, that we can utilize what they need in order to service the individuals that in our specific area. So we're like in the middle, and we are pretty much coordinating whatever is going on out there.
Could I comment one more about fleshing out a little bit an example of a homeless person that you're working with? I know, Maureen, I think you're working because you've met him. He's a friend of mine, and he's been homeless for many, many years now in West LA. You've met with him at least 3 times because he's told me that, and he feels that he's getting close to getting housing through you folks. He just told me that this morning. But anyway, talking about him a little bit, going back a few years, we were able to get him into a motorhome. I don't know if you remember back about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, there were some motorhomes in the parking lot at Rancho Park. Anybody remember seeing those? A lot of them, and there were homeless in there. And this friend of mine, we got him a place in there, and then they closed that up, and they moved him over to Griffith Park. And he had a similar situation there, where he had his own motorhome, 3 meals a day, and it was a very good existence for him in terms of housing. But he had to follow the curfew rules there, which really weren't that strict. But he failed once, he failed twice, and they threw him out. So what are you going to do with a guy like Frank, who's a pretty sharp guy? He's pretty successful as a panhandler, quite frankly. And he's looking forward to getting into housing again, but I'm not sure he can follow the rules. Well, how are you going to handle him now?
So our philosophy, one of our sayings is we meet people where they're at. Going into permanent housing, I think the rules, you're talking about a PRK where like it was a little bit stricter than going into, say, a project-based unit or into a scattered site, what we call just a regular apartment, where he would have to follow a lease agreement. But with our agency, we come with case management attached to our vouchers, the vouchers that we allocate for the most part, not all of them, but for the most part, which means that whatever issues that may arise with individuals going into housing, there's going to be somebody there to kind of sort of support them and walk them through the change, because it's a, not only were they traumatized going out into the streets, they were traumatized being out on the streets, and then moving from that tent in the park into an apartment is also traumatizing for them. So we like to bring to the table with our clients that you don't have to do this alone. And after a while, when you get to know somebody, you start to trust them, and then they do what they say, they're consistent with you. Then they see that, no, I don't have to do this alone, that I'm able to succeed. I'm going to have somebody walking with me. We're not doing it for you, but we're going to walk with you, and we're going to show you how to do it until you could do it yourself.
That's a very good answer. Thank you.
Benjamin Fisher, you have a question? Take yourself off mute.
I did. I'm not sure which one of you will answer it, but I'm going to come from a different perspective. We've had a lot of home invasions in Mar Vista from homeless. We see people walking down the street that don't belong in our area. We see a lot of crime. Police hands are tied. But as a homeowner, I want not the police perspective, I want the human perspective. What would you do and how would you confront somebody is really the question I have. Because we have sort of a neighborhood, without calling it a council, we have conversations all the time. And it's not getting any easier, it's actually getting worse. So whoever wants to tackle that, please give me some advice.
I'll try, Maureen. I mean, I live in LA too. This happens in my neighborhood as well as yours. I live in Santa Monica and I have kids here, and we walk, try to play in the parks, and sometimes got to leave the park. So I'm not indifferent at all to what you're saying, and I've seen it happen and have experienced it myself. One of our CEO, John Zachery, says something that helps me with moments like this, which is like, this is a type of situation and problem that I don't think you're never going to be happy with any of the solutions. Like, something about the solutions offered is going to rub you the wrong way. So if it's a pure policing idea, it's probably going to rub the humanitarian, like, these are people who are struggling, it's going to rub that way. If the idea is getting everybody and putting them in housing, it might hit a part of you that's like, but these people are committing crimes and they're, skirting around the system, and like, why should they get something free? Like, so there's always going to be something that's not going to sit right with some portion of people. And, I look at it, and again, this is just my opinion, but like, what kind of world do I want to live in? And what kind of community do I want to be a part of? And can I live with the thing that bothers me best? So if it's like, they're trying to build a shelter or interim housing in your community, would you rather have the problem of the interim housing in your community or the person breaking into your apartment? Now, I know that some people are going to say you're going to end up with both. and that might be true, but I think if you want to offer solutions within your community for problems in the community, and I know that makes it hard. That's one of the challenges, I think, of this issue is, you know, I hear a lot of people say, yes, we'd like to help house people, and then in the same breath, but not right here. It should be somewhere else. And I think that that's a really tough line in the sand to draw. And I think that it's such a huge issue that the solutions also have to be, everybody has to take some portion of it. You know, there's been a lot of housing has gone out in like Antelope Valley, and you can follow reports of like people who've moved up to Antelope Valley and what's happening out there, where it's, you know, moving all people of one class to one area. We have a bad history of that with humanity, right? I think we can think of lots and lots of examples of how that doesn't work. And I'm sure there's people on this call that do not like what I'm saying, and that's okay. But I think I'd rather have the problem of a shelter down the street from me than a person in my alley, you know, and I'd rather know that the person in my alley, if I make a phone call, it's not necessarily going to be that they're going to get arrested and go to jail and not really end up getting any help for themselves, but that there's going to be services that come and try to help them out. So the service delivery system needs to be bigger than it is currently. And so I recommend like advocating for a more robust delivery system. And I know that doesn't always sound great to everyone. So,
well, just one quick follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked to a number of homeless people because they're all around, and they don't want to go into a shelter or housing. They absolutely love living on the streets. That, I think, is one of the biggest problems.
Okay, so as a human being, at some point, you're going to get used to being where you're at. Of course, they don't want to go into a shelter. Of course, they say they don't want to. There's no hope there. Like if we're just throwing it out, do you want to go into housing? Where's the clear plan? Where's that spark of hope that's going to kick them in? You have to be okay with sleeping in a tent in order to continue to sleep in that tent. So it's not a matter of you asking the person, hey, you like being out here? Do you want to go into housing? It's showing them that that opportunity is available to them. Then you will start to see a different attitude in them, that it is possible for them to actually have more than what they are allotted right now at this time.
Yeah, I mean, and yes, I hear that all the time too. We hear people say that, but sometimes, and this is where the trauma-informed care thing I talked about is really important. Hello? The trauma-informed care piece is really important because, you know, if you have no reason to trust and believe and have faith and hope, then you're not going to. So that's why I think our approach works. And this goes back to what the other question about what's different. And I'm not going to say that we're better at it than others, but we are. It's that, you know, that's our number one thing, is building a relationship with somebody that's trusting and important. I can have a resource, but if you don't want to work with me to get it, then it's not going to do any good. So we have to work with the power of our personality, of our, you know, tenacity, and keep going back and keep going back and keep going back. So it's like, it's definitely a sales job. I tell that to people. If they've worked in customer service or sales, they're going to do great at this job, because it's like, you know, people can't slam the door in your face when you're going door to door when they live outside, but they can find ways to use their behavior to slam a door in your face, right? So,
thank you, guys.
Sally Brandt, did you have a question?
Well, yes, I think we see the increase in the population of the homeless here. It's a pretty attractive place to live, to be homeless, and the benefits keep increasing, which appears to be an attraction for more people wanting to be homeless. Come to West Los Angeles or what have you, where it's never that cold at night, occasionally, but not that. And the benefits are, I understand, are running $1,500 a month to anybody who's homeless, plus a free food, plus a free phone.
Not that I know of.
What is the 50? Where did the 1,500 come
there's general relief and food stamps.
And that's 221 a month. I think that the reason why that people are coming out here to West LA more so is because every other place is crowded with homeless. I grew up in this area as well. I lived in Mar Vista. I live in Palms right now. Growing up, I didn't see this. The Venice Boardwalk, I was down there at the age of 10 by myself. There was not an issue. We have so many people that are on the streets right now that they are branching out into areas that they weren't 10, 15, 20 years ago. And it has nothing to do with the money that they're getting. It's just that we're so overwhelmed with homeless individuals. Nobody is able to find a safe place to be. That's why they've moved out this way. There's just no room for them anywhere else.
I have a quick question.
I was born here, and I can tell you the population in Southern California has increased substantially year by year by year. Say, I was born here 70 plus years ago, so I've kind of watched it.
Okay, thank you. I have a real quick question. Has there been any success with getting homeless people vaccinated against COVID-19?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
Yeah, there's statistics that are on, I think it's the Department of Health Services website. If you look up homeless COVID vaccination, Los Angeles County, you can find that. It's publicly available.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And Phil, did you have a quick question? We have like 2 minutes left. You're on mute, Phil. Take yourself off mute.
Yeah, okay, sorry about that. Hey, so I was wondering, is there anything we can do? Maybe not so much financially, but for instance, do you need furniture for the housing that you do provide? Because I know a lot of students at the end of the school year throw out a lot of beds and couches and tables and chairs. If you can somehow route that to your group, that might be a good way to furnish some of these apartments that you're able to build or to get. And the other part is, would an ongoing effort for donations for clothing, jackets, shoes, like a permanent, do you guys have the capacity to take donations of non-monetary, possibly? I mean, hopefully monetary is always good, but do you have a need for non-monetary items to be donated?
Yes, we do. We can always use socks, shoes. It's getting cold, blankets, jackets, sweatpants, sweatshirts. I mean, those basic things that we could use for the streets.
Yeah, just in West LA, westlahomeless.org had a winter clothing drive last December and collected quite a bit of clothes.
Yeah.
Do you guys have the capacity? More of those again this year. Socks are the most important though.
Yeah. Do you guys have the capacity to take furniture donations?
No, we don't have anywhere to store the donations at this time. I mean, we were thinking, that's a good question. We went through that when I was working on the Palisades project on where to put the furniture so that when people move in, we could furnish their apartments. But I don't think we really figured that out. We just don't have the space.
Okay, I see it's 12:30. I see that Zach has put a couple of websites in it's on the screen also. They're also in the chat. And I just want to thank you both so much for coming today. And we are making a donation to the Westwood Public Library in your honor. And I wish we had more time, but I know people have to get back to work or pick up kids and all of that sort of thing. So, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll try to visit these websites. We really appreciate everything you're doing. And we can contact you, as I can see, through these different sites and also listed there. And I just want to say thank you very much. And to my own the Rotary Club here, please don't forget about Giti Javid, our district governor, will be with us next week. And otherwise, we'll see you all a week from today. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for having us. Have a good afternoon.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Thank you for coming.
Great program. Thank you.
Terrific. Get off here.
You really need to get a storage space. For
Yeah, you're right.
That's someone's garage.
No, that's not the, that's what what's her name did, Mary, last year.
Yeah.
Her garage was packed.
Yeah.